Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a new version of Brilliant Magical Reptiles. As promised last time, this is the Totally Awesome variant, which is very similar to a version of this deck that actually did quite well right before Link Era rolled around. At the time, there was only one Rescue Rabbit, and the idea was to use cards like Aquamador, Gigabyte, and Chocolate Magician Girl in order to be able to access a rank 4 toolbox that went for Bahamut Shark and, of course, Totally Awesome. And those of you who've been following my channel may notice that this is pretty much an adaptation of a deck called Brilliant Magical Reptiles, or BMR, that I'd been working on for a very long time on my channel that I most recently profiled. If you want to check out that original build, you can click the link in the description box. But essentially, this has its own pros and cons, it has its own fun things and some other weaknesses and things brought on by this new engine, but it's a totally different take on this thing and it's just as fun. So we're going to do a let's build of this. As always, I'm going to go through all my reasonings for why the choices are in here, and then at the very end I do the classic alphabetical deck profile that you can access by clicking the timestamp in the description box or the comment section below. I always pin it to the top for your guys' convenience. And then if you have any remaining questions, you can check out the middle part of the video where I go and explain all the frequently asked things. So without further ado, let's build Totally Awesome Brilliant Magical Reptiles. We're using the R4NK mat that I opened this channel up with in 2014 today for a couple reasons. First, we're playing a water-based deck today, so I feel like it's fitting to use a water monster. And on top of that, where I'm living right now, we are completely snowed in, so it just kind of fits my mood. But to establish the core of this deck, it's essentially going to be a variant of Brilliant Magical Reptiles. So we still have the Brilliant Fusion, getting us a spellcaster to allow us to special summon Gigabyte for free. But new to our cast is Performage Damage Juggler. Fresh off the Forbidden list, this guy lets us have 3 cool abilities, the first 2 of which protect us from damage. You can discard him to block an effect damage effect and destroy that card, which is pretty cool against Trickstars, and we can also go ahead and discard it to protect ourselves in a Necrogardener-like way, preventing us from absorbing the next bit of battle damage that we would. And then, once he's in the graveyard because you use his discard ability, you yarded him with Brilliant Fusion because he's a light monster, or because you just use him as material, you can banish him to add a Performage monster that's not Damage Juggler from your deck to your hand. So that's really cool because that means in conjunction with Seraphonite, who gives us an extra normal summon, now we can go and add the Trick Clown to our hand, normal that, turn the 2 of those into Ebe, our Link monster, and then from there we can go ahead and revive the Trick Clown, which will still cause us to take damage, trigger off the Heroic Challenger 1000 Blades, and let everything continue going. So essentially Trick Clown becomes 2 monsters like it's supposed to be. Brilliant Fusion usually makes it into 1. This lets us turn it into 2, which is pretty good. And then on top of that, we do have returning here Hat Tricker, who basically lets you summon him if you have 2 or more monsters anywhere on the board, including your opponent. So if you're going second, great, you're probably dropping this for free with no commitment. And then if you're going first, just Brilliant Fusion off of these 2 will let you go for the Hat Tricker. So this allows you to make a lot of free Link plays, Xyz plays, lets you go for Mrs. Radiant because it's an Earth, just like Seraphonite. So there are a lot of cool things you can do. And just like Damage Juggler, it's good against Trickstars because if you would take burn damage, you can put counters on it instead, and when you get up to 3, he becomes 3,300 attack and defense. So something that sometimes comes up. Usually your opponent will realize, what's happening, but it's still something that's nice. It protects your life points from the damage, so I do like that card. And then Gigabyte over here, main thing is its free special summon. And it's searchable by King of the Feral Imps, who lets you grab any reptile from your deck by detaching a material, and he's just a level 4, or a rank 4 monster, so you just go Spellcaster, Gigabyte, you go for King of the Feral Imps, maybe you detach the Trick Clown so it comes back, you fetch a Gigabyte. Gigabyte does have one stipulation. You can only control 1 of them at a time, but it's not 1 per turn. So you could go drop that second Gigabyte, turn the imps into some other like Link monster using some other guys you might already have or whatever, and then continue making plays from there. And of course, King of the Feral Imps is best if you've already done Link summons. We'll talk about how to do that in just a moment. But I do like an honorary reptile here. We're cutting down the numbers from the original BMR that you saw last time, but 1 copy of Nefarious Archfiend of Nefariousness is really important because it has the same ability to special summon itself if you have a spellcaster. It's an Earth monster, so you can go Mrs. Radiant, and you could summon it off of Gigabyte when Gigabyte's destroyed, and that's an if, so you can even go and do it if your opponent hits you with Solemn Strike, and then if it's in the graveyard, boom, you get to summon this thing, which is pretty cool. Then he has his own ability. If he's in the graveyard during your opponent's end phase, you could kill one of your own guys and special summon him. So kill your Trick Clown, bring this out, Trick Clown will come back, and you have 2 monsters to start your turn with to go Link Summon, Xyz Summon, or whatever. Also, like last time, I want to make sure we go through the actual Xyz toolbox that this deck is based on, because we gotta say, well, why exactly are we putting level 4 monsters on the board? It's mainly because of these three here: Abyss Dweller, Tornado Dragon, and Traptrix Rafflesia, especially backed up with Treacherous Trap Hole, allow us to have spell speed 2 answers that we can play during either player's turn to stop your opponent's graveyard, back row, including new traps, field spells, continuous spells, whatever, and Rafflesia with Treacherous lets us clear your opponent's front row of monsters as well. All of these are a lot more specific than something like Castel, but usually I like playing Castel in a deck where you don't have a lot of room in your extra because it's so generic, but it's not really got any advantage other than it doesn't go and destroy the monster, it just shuffles it away. These are better in most situations because they're so much more powerful, they're so much more reactive. You just shut down the entire graveyard, you can kill any spell or trap, even the field. You can even go and kill monsters during your opponent's turn. These just tend to be a lot better. So Castel, because of space reasons, ends up going into my side deck once these guys are already in there. But that's just my choice. I feel like this gives us as much coverage as we really need. Bagooska is also really good because a lot of times you'll notice you summon this thing alongside Ebe to protect it and a Mrs. Radiant to power it up because he's an earth monster. So he'll end up getting up to 2500 defense with his lose one turn ability, you know, shut off all your opponent's monster effects and your own, but you know, with link monsters he's still pretty good. And then in attack position you can just shut off that other effect, wrecking ball your opponent with a 2100, 26 if you have the Mrs. Radiant. This thing is just really good when you've got your link monsters up, or if it's the only monster you can summon from your extra deck because you haven't summoned links yet, just summon it up there and you'll be able to go and stall until you're able to get things going because he's an earth. Go into Mrs. Radiant with him. So I really do like this card for its ability to control bad situations and get them more under your ideal situation. And finally, I like playing the Utopia package here. Yeah, it does eat up a couple spaces, but Lightning is just so good. It pretty much combines the best elements of Abyss Dweller and some other cards and just becomes a 5000 beater that can solve a myriad of problems. So this thing is really powerful, and I feel like it really does a good job rounding out this Xyz toolbox. So now is the time we talk about the totally awesome part of this deck. Totally awesome, a lot of you guys know, is the titular card here from the title that normally requires 2 Aqua-type monsters that are level 2. So you're thinking, well, how do you summon this? Well, you summon it off of Bahamut Shark, right? Which is what a lot of people always did, but then that was kind of complicated by link monsters being a thing, and now you need 2 zones opened after you summon your link monster to be able to go and summon these guys, and well, is Totally Awesome really worth it? I honestly think so, because its ability, remember, is to negate one of your opponent's cards or effects, destroy it, and then you can set that card to your field. So that's really cool because your opponent doesn't want to just blindly throw Raigeki and Torrential Tribute into you because you can just stop it and take it to use it against them. Also, his cost is to send himself to the graveyard or any other Aqua. We're only playing him, so we'll send him. But the cool thing is then he recycles himself, and then Bahamut Shark can bring him back out the following turn as long as we can protect him. And as we'll show later, Ebe is very easy to summon alongside these guys to protect them, and then that'll let us recycle Totally Awesome and make it even more of a pain in the butt than it normally is. And the way we summon this is through Rescue Rabbit, who's now at 3, allowing us to make the best use possible out of Aquamador, who is just a level 4 water spellcaster. Got a stat line of 12 and 2000, so he's better on defense, but you know, just the fact that you summon this and you can Gigabyte off of it, and hey, that's 2 water monsters means you could go Bahamut Shark, and then opening up a 1-card play into Bahamut or any other rank 4 or link monster is really quite good. So that's why we play this engine here. And don't forget, we're already playing Brilliant Fusion, so by playing 2 Garnets, we can actually go and potentially use Rescue Rabbit on these as well. And to make it all come together, I like playing 1 Lazuli. Originally I was considering, well, what if I played 3 Garnets? But then I'd always send a Garnet that would be dead, and I thought, that's not the best. Whereas if I've gone and used a Vanilla, Lazuli lets me recycle one to my hand so I can Twin Twister with it or do some other shenanigans with Aquamador, as I'll get to in just a second. So it ends up becoming Lazuli will do nothing sometimes, it'll get you a free card sometimes, and in general I feel like it's better than Garnet. The only time Garnet's better is if you draw the Lazuli, and it could have been a Garnet, but I end up thinking that Lazuli does a lot more for your deck than a 3rd Garnet, so that's why I ended up playing it, but you could always play the 3rd Garnet if you wanted. Believe it or not, Tin Goldfish here actually works nicely as not only a substitute or kind of an interchangeable card with Goblinberg here, but as a water monster, it lets you make better use of dead Aquamadors and some of the other water monsters, and it essentially will function like a second Rescue Rabbit or second set of Rescue Rabbits in this deck in a combo I'll show you, to make sure that you can get Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome out alongside some other rank 4. So that's a very cool card. And we have 2 Chocolate Magician Girls. So this is something, if I could get it out of the glare there, that was actually used in that YCS deck. So essentially this is a utility card. 1600 attack, level 4, water monster. It's a spellcaster as well, so you know you can drop Gigabyte with it and go for the shark. But you can discard any of your dead spellcasters like Aquamador or Trick Clown, who will summon itself back in order to draw cards. So that's pretty cool. Cycle cards, get rid of dead ones, and then if it's targeted for an attack, once per turn, you can special summon one of your spellcasters from your grave and make your opponent attack that with half their attack. So summon an Aquamador with 2000 defense, and your opponent's attacks they're not killing you if they have 4000 in attack or less, which is really quite good. And yeah, that means your opponent can get over it in some situations, but if you have a really bad hand, this helps fix those situations, plays a little bit of offense, defense, has a great role as just a spellcaster level 4 water monster, so overall, it's quite nice. That's why I'm only playing 2. It's more of a utility type of extra flavor card. You know, you don't want to go too much with the chocolate here. And then I like playing the 1 Brilliant Fusion, because we'll talk about the Predaplant engine in just a second here, and with that, you want to make sure that you end up having an extra card in case you've already drawn Brilliant Fusion. That means Instant Fusion's quite accessible thanks to the deck's core engine, including an access card for Brilliant Fusion or Instant Fusion. And then we play the rare fish, Seltner Fish. I don't know if that's actually German. I apologize if that's not. That's my best attempt with 0 background in German. But essentially, this will let you go and round out all of your summons here, and it can be used for just generic rank 4s and link summons like Eve as well, because as a water fish monster, I found out it's not Divine Beast, ha, Konami, but essentially that lets us go and make our plays happen because it doesn't interfere with anything and it synergizes with everything that we have. This is the part where I once again talk about the Predaplant engine here, and it's honestly dawned on me that if they do something to this engine on the Forbidden Limitless, I'm going to be screwed because like all my decks play this, but if nothing else, it's testament to the fact that this engine is so versatile. It's just so cool that you can use it in so many different decks. But we're of course playing 3 Lone Fire Blossoms to access Ophir Scorpio, who lets us discard a monster, think Trick Clown or Thousand Blades, or something like an extra Aquamador, and that lets us go and summon our Darlingtonia Cobra. This will let us summon, or add rather, Brilliant Fusion to our hand, or if you already have one of those, hey, just go for that Instant Fusion. You can extend your combos, because that's even better here than if you just search Brilliant Fusion. But we'll hold on to this for a second. Essentially what you want to do is turn the 2 of these monsters here into a generic rank 3 MX Saber Invoker, who will let us detach a material in order to summon a warrior level 4. You can go Beast Warrior, but this guy is honestly the best target here because he will let you go 2 Earth monsters into Mrs. Radiant, who opens up 2 zones. Now, don't look at these zones, you know, I don't use them here because there's a lot of glare up here, and I don't want, you know, that to blind you guys. So we'll just put imagine this is the right zone here. So I like playing that here, and then we can open up with Brilliant Fusion here. So now that's cool because that lets us send Lazuli to the graveyard. You want to use this so that you have Garnets later for the Rescue Rabbits to work, and then you can choose. It depends on your hand, the rest of it, but you can go either Trick Clown or Damage Juggler here. So, you know, Damage Juggler I talked about lets you go and normal summon Trick Clown, which is pretty cool depending on your hand, but I want to set up this combo in a slightly different way. So let's try the Trick Clown here. So we send the 2 of these, and we summon Seraph Knight. And I used to talk, last time I talked about summon him at the end. Honestly, you always summon Eve off of this, because as a level 5, you can't do anything else besides Link Summon with her. So I summon her here. This lets me go and summon the Trick Clown back, and because I take damage now, I can summon the Thousand Blades from the graveyard, and this is the start of a lot of cool combos. Assuming we've used Trick Clown as our target for Brilliant Fusion, we still have an extra normal summon left, and that could be either a Rescue Rabbit we have in hand, or a Tin Goldfish along with any other level 4 monster. So let's start off, we'll do both of these combos here. We'll start off with Rescue Rabbit. You need to normal summon your second monster while you have Seraph Knight, so you go and summon the Rescue Rabbit here. Then you can go and turn Earth, Fairy, and Spellcaster Light into a Eve, who basically lets you protect the monster she points to by sending her to the grave instead of destroying whatever she's pointing to. And while she's pointing to something, she's immune to a lot of things like Torrential Tribute or anything else that destroys, which is very relevant because that's one, what allows you to protect your other cards, and two, she herself becomes extremely annoying to have to deal with. So this is going to be our setup here, and it opens up a couple more zones. Then we can go and banish that Rescue Rabbit, allowing us to summon out 2 copies of Aquamador, and then we can go and overlay one of them with the other in order to summon out our King of the Feral Imps, who then lets us detach the Thousand Blades, and that will let us go and add Gigabyte to our hand. Now we have 2 different spellcasters here. We have Aquamador and Eve, so we can drop Gigabyte and then overlay with Aquamador for a level 4 or rank 4 monster, and that will let us go for Bahamut Shark, and then you could detach a material so that rest of the turn you can't attack. Turn 1, who cares? Turn 2 or whatever, just attack with your 26 first and then do this main phase 2. You summon Totally Awesome here where it's pointing to, and then you have the ability to protect yourself. And the reason I like summoning it like this is because Eve now protects the 2 of these guys, and Totally Awesome gets rid of himself to recycle in order to use that ability anyway. So Eve protecting these 2 means in the following turn, let's say I end up using both of these. Okay, cool. So now I can use this to summon or search another Gigabyte, and then I can use this to summon out an extra copy of the Totally Awesome here, and then I can use the Bahamut Shark, who can't attack anyway, or King of the Feral Imps, honestly, along with Mrs. Radiant, just to, you know, upgrade and summon out Decode Talker, and then that frees up some extra zones and makes us, you know, I can do some other crazy shenanigans from here. If you didn't lose Eve, then even better, now you can just go and summon another monster here, probably with a normal summon and a free special summon of Gigabyte off of Eve being a spellcaster, you know? You could probably go make another monster, maybe Rafflesia to pop cards, or maybe just something else to attack. You can just push for game right here. The other thing that we can do actually happens off of Tin Goldfish and the Gemnite Garnet. And so, just to rewind a second here, we end up with a board of Trick Clown and Thousand Blades, and we just summon Eve off of that Seraphite and the Trick Clown. You've already gotten your Tin Goldfish and Garnet on the field, because remember, you have to summon the Tin Goldfish while you have Seraphite still on the field, and you get to this point, so we'll swap those out. There we go. So we're at the proper setup here now. From here, you want to make sure you save your water monster. This can be anything. If it's a water, great, just leave one on the board. But you overlay the 2 of these into King of the Feral Imps, and notice this is the exact same pattern. Detach this to add Gigabyte. Eve is a spellcaster, so you can Gigabyte into Tin Goldfish for Bahamut for Totally Awesome. And this is good because now it's the exact same combo. Whether you end up with Tin Goldfish and any level 4, or you end up with Rescue Rabbit, you get this core combo to get you all of this, and then again, turn 2, you follow up and do whatever. If you don't draw either of those, you can just go and use your Damage Juggler as your Brilliant Fusion target, so that Trick Clown will come out twice, and then on top of that you can use Gigabyte, and you can use any copies of Hat Tricker that you get as well, and that lets you go for different cards so that, you know, whatever you summon here, since you get Eve for sure, you get to protect those monsters. So you could still do a lot of stuff even if you don't get Totally Awesome, but this gives you now 6 different ways to summon Totally Awesome off of one card, plus, you know, having a level 4 extra in your hand. And that doesn't even consider, you might just have a bunch of free water monsters that you can drop onto the field, and then that would let you also summon your Bahamut Shark. To finish out the rest of the main deck, I play these few cards to fix the engines we just talked about. So Goblinberg at 1 allows me to not worry about drawing into my Thousand Blades. Normally, you draw your Thousand Blades and you discard off of the Predaplant. That's awesome, but then I don't have anything to summon off of MX Saber. So I play Goblinberg because it's essentially Tin Goldfish, lets me go for Mrs. Radiant, and then it's also a target to summon off of MX Saber because the chance of me drawing both my Earths now in my opening hand is extremely low. And on top of that, if, you know, I end up drawing this, great, I'll just use it. If I draw the Thousand Blades, I can just pitch it as the cost for Ophrys, so there's not really a losing scenario when you play Goblinberg in here. Just make sure that your MX Saber is always live. Similarly, World Carrot Weight champions in here, because sometimes you use Lone Fire and you have, you know, Lone Fire to clear everything out, so you don't have to worry about those, but you still have some extra Predaplants, or the other way, you open with the Ophrys Scorpio, and now you just have 3 dead Lone Fires. So now you can turn those guys into World Carrot Weight Champion, who's a 19 under attack level 4, lets you go and make, rank 4 summons here, and he has an ability where once per turn you can get rid of a spare plant on your field or in your hand to revive him from the graveyard, and that lets you make better use of your plants, who are all level 3s and normally would be pointless for you other than as maybe link material. So definitely I like that card. And finally, I like finishing things off with 2 copies of Twin Twister as a spell speed 2 removal option. I feel like it's so much better than something like Hey Treatoad right now, because in the main deck at least, you want to make sure you have a flexible out to pendulums, trap cards, whatever. And by killing 2 guys, it's better than MST or Cosmic Cyclone in a lot of cases, because you're getting rid of multiple cards, having a higher impact every time you draw one. And if you think about it, you have so many potential dead cards in here between the Aquamadors and Garnets, the extra Brilliant Fusions, Predaplants, whatever. You can just get rid of them and make your hand better by getting rid of your opponent's field, throwing everything onto the board, and making your deck do exactly what it's supposed to do. When it's all said and done, I now have 2 versions of BMR that at their core are quite similar, and so you may be thinking, why would you choose to play one over the other? Well, if we look at it in terms of extra deck count and how much investment there is, it's the same thing. Because if you take out the Hope Zexal and the extra Utopia Prime, and you play the 2 of these guys, well, that's the same thing here. In fact, we freed up 3 main deck slots from the rank up magics to be able to play these, and then you just swap out Rare Fish in for the Carbonala Warrior that I was playing before. Though honestly, again, Rare Fish could have been in either version. So 3 for 3 swap out, no change at all to the extra deck in terms of counts, so it's not any tighter or more free than it was before. But the big thing I see here is the advantage is we can now play Toadally Awesome, who's a very good power card compared to all the other rank 4s. I mentioned how I like playing these, the Abyss Dweller, Traptrix Rafflesia, and the Tornado Dragon because of how good they are in controlling your opponent's field and making your field secure, and they definitely are great. But Toadally Awesome backs things up like no other, and I feel like those other generic rank 4s don't quite have the same power level alone as a Toadally Awesome can. So just having some extra water monsters gives you access to a bigger, pretty consistent play in this deck. So I think that's one of the biggest advantages. The downside here is, of course, we're playing more dead cards, because now we're playing 3 more vanillas, we're playing an additional Gem Knight in on top of the Garnet, and those are things that you don't want to draw. Nice thing is, we do have some good power plays, because we have access to Rescue Rabbit, so that's a 1-card Toadally Awesome, essentially, or a 1-card, Xyz summon of any other variety, and that's something that we didn't have in the classic BMR deck. On top of that, we can deal with consistency issues because we have Chocolate Magician Girl to get rid of our extra Aquamadors, and it synergizes by being a level 4 water spellcaster. And Tin Goldfish is really cool because not only does it kind of become Goblinberg in this deck, but since it has that level 4 water requirement, we can go Bahamut Shark, which again makes everything much more consistent for Toadally Awesome. So Tin Goldfish is just a variant, you could say, of Goblinberg, but in this deck it allows us to access the power play of Toadally Awesome, which I think is pretty good as well. And then on top of that, when you have so many dead cards in this deck, it allows us to play things like Twin Twister, which will allow us to get rid of our opponent's back row in kind of this new format here, and that will let us make sure that we get all of this off, and then kind of balances things off here. So more inherent inconsistencies, but we have a lot of good ways to fix it. Biggest thing is we have power plays, especially into Toadally Awesome, so it's just a different flavor of BMR overall. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this deck profile as much as I did putting the theme together. We'll start off with the main here. So we have double Chocolate Magician Girl, a single Lazuli, Goblinberg, and Heroic Challenger 1000 Blades, triple Gigabyte, triple Lone Fire Blossom, 1 Nefarious Archfiend Eater of Nefariousness, a Performage Damage Juggler, double Hat Tricker, and double Trick Clown, 1 Darlingtonia Cobra, triple Ophrys Scorpio, triple Rescue Rabbit, triple Tin Goldfish, a World Carrot Weight Champion, 3 Aquamador, and double Gem Knight Garnet for our monsters. Then we have triple Brilliant Fusion, Instant Fusion, double Twin Twister, and a lone Treacherous Trap Hole for a 40-card main deck. And then our extra deck contains 3 Link monsters in the form of Ebe, Mrs. Radiant, and Decode Talker. Then we have Abyss Dweller, King of the Feral Imps, Baguska, Tornado Dragon, Rafflesia, Utopia and the Lightning, Bahamut Shark, and Totally Awesome, and then MX Saber Invoker. Then we have for fusions, Rare Fish and Gem Knight Seraphonite. That's the end of this video, but if you'd like to see more of this series, you can click the annotation on the right, or you can see the last video I did by clicking the one on the left. If you enjoyed, I encourage you guys to leave a like and share it with others you think who may enjoy it as well. And if you'd really like to see more updates, then subscribe to JD Gaming for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming, hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you guys next time.